The hall was filled with nervous laughter and quiet whispers. 300 humans stood in neat rows, all wearing the same gray uniform of the Galactic Unity program. They had come from every corner of Earth, soldiers, scientists, teachers, and workers, all selected by the algorithm to be paired with alien species. Kang Do-yun stood near the back, his hands clasped behind him. He was 27 years old, average height, with a face that people forgot easily. He had served 5 years in the military, earned no special medals, and had no remarkable skills. When his name appeared on the selection list, he had assumed it was a mistake. But there were no mistakes. The algorithm chose everyone for a reason, even if that reason was never explained. Park Ji-won, the announcer, called out. Do-yun watched his friend walk to the front of the hall. A holographic image appeared above the stage, a being with soft blue skin and large gentle eyes. The text below read, Mira of the Healing Pools, third scholar of the archives. Ji-won let out a breath of relief. The scholars were known across the galaxy as peaceful researchers who spent their lives studying ancient texts, a perfect match for Ji-won, who had been a librarian before joining the program. You lucky bastard, someone whispered nearby. One by one, names were called. Lee Sumi received a cheerful amphibian diplomat who immediately sent a holographic message saying he was excited to learn about Korean cooking. Another man was paired with a plant-like being who communicated through colors and seemed genuinely delighted. Most matches were like this: friendly, curious aliens from peaceful worlds. The Galactic Unity program was designed to build bridges between species through personal bonds. It was politics dressed up as romance, but most participants didn't mind. The galaxy was vast and lonely, and connection was connection. Do-yun felt his shoulders relax as more names were called. Maybe he would get a scholar too, or perhaps one of those crystal beings who loved music. He had learned to play guitar as a teenager. That could be nice. Kang Do-yun. He walked forward, keeping his face calm. Around him he could hear people still chatting quietly about their matches. Normal. Everything was normal. Then the holographic image appeared. The hall went silent. She was tall, over 7 feet based on the scale marker. Her skin was silver, like polished metal, and her eyes burned gold. She wore armor that looked grown rather than made, black plates that covered her body like the shell of some deadly insect. Her face was beautiful in the way a blade was beautiful, sharp, cold, and dangerous. Behind her, the hologram showed a throne room filled with warriors. They all had the same silver skin, the same predator eyes. The text below read, Princess Yura of the Valen Empire, third daughter of Emperor Kale, commander of the 7th Fleet, bearer of the Crimson Mark. Someone dropped something. The sound echoed in the silence. Do-yun stared at the image. He knew about the Velans. Everyone did. They were one of the few species in the galaxy that had nearly gone to war with the Federation twice. They were apex predators from a high-gravity world, stronger and faster than almost any other known species. Their culture was built on combat and honor. They solved disputes through duels. They considered mercy a weakness. And their princess, this princess, was famous for a specific reason. She had killed 3 previous diplomatic suitors. There must be a mistake, someone said from the officials' table. Do-yun saw them checking their screens, their faces pale. The algorithm doesn't make mistakes, another official replied, but his voice was shaking. Do-yun continued to stare at the hologram. Princess Yura stared back, frozen in the image but somehow still threatening. He noticed a scar running along her jaw, proof that even she had bled at some point. The head official cleared his throat. Kang Do-yun, your match has been confirmed. You will depart for the Velen homeworld in 3 days. Do you have any questions? 100 questions filled his mind. Why him? What had the algorithm seen? Was this a death sentence dressed up as diplomacy? But he had been a soldier for 5 years. He knew how to keep his mouth shut when it mattered. No questions, he said. The official nodded, looking relieved that Do-yun wasn't making a scene. Very well. You will receive a briefing package tonight. I suggest you study it carefully. Do-yun returned to his place in the rows. Nobody spoke to him. They all looked away, as if bad luck might be contagious. Only Ji-won caught his eye and gave him a small, sad nod. It was the kind of look you gave someone walking to their execution. That night, Do-hyun sat alone in his quarters and opened the briefing package. It contained thousands of pages about Valen culture, history, and customs. He read until his eyes burned. The Velens had evolved as pack hunters on a world where everything was trying to kill them. They grew strong or they died. Their entire society was based on strength, not just physical but mental and political as well. Weakness was not tolerated. The weak were cast out or killed. Princess Yura was the third child of the emperor. In Velen's succession, only the firstborn had any real claim to the throne. The other children were political tools at best, threats to be eliminated at worst. Yura had survived by becoming the deadliest warrior in the empire. She had earned her position through blood. The 3 suitors she had killed were not murders. They were legal duels. Each of them had challenged her, thinking a princess would be an easy target. Each of them had been wrong. At the bottom of the briefing, someone had added a handwritten note. Don't show fear, they can smell it. Do-hyun closed the file and lay back on his bed. He thought about his mother, who had worked 18-hour days in a factory to raise him alone. He thought about his grandmother, who had survived a war and never once complained. He thought about all the humans throughout history who had faced impossible odds and kept going anyway. He was not special. He was not strong. He was not clever. But he was human. And humans were very, very hard to kill. 3 days later, Do-hyun boarded a ship bound for the Velen homeworld. As Earth grew small in the window behind him, he made himself a quiet promise. He would not die easily. Whatever this princess wanted, whatever game she played, he would survive. Not because he was brave, but because giving up had never been something humans did well. The stars stretched out before him, cold and endless. Somewhere among them, a vicious alien princess was waiting. Do-hyun closed his eyes and tried to sleep. The Velan homeworld was called Karath. From orbit, it looked like a bruise, dark purples and deep reds swirling across its surface. The ship descended through thick clouds, and Do-hyun felt his body grow heavier with each passing minute. The gravity here was stronger than Earth's. Every step would cost more energy. Every movement would be slower. The landing pad was surrounded by soldiers. They stood perfectly still, their silver skin gleaming under the red sun. Each one was at least a head taller than Do-hyun, and their eyes tracked him like a predator watching prey. A translator device had been implanted behind his ear before departure. When the lead soldier spoke, the words came through clear but cold. Human, follow. They did not ask his name. They did not welcome him. They simply expected him to obey. Do-hyun followed. The palace rose from black stone like something alive. Its towers twisted toward the sky, and its walls were carved with images of battle and conquest. Everywhere he looked, he saw weapons, hanging on walls, carried by guards, displayed in cases like precious art. The throne room was vast. Hundreds of Valens filled the space, all watching as Do-hyun was led to the center of the floor. At the far end, raised on a platform of polished obsidian, sat the emperor. Emperor Kyle was ancient by Velen standards, nearly 400 years old. His silver skin had darkened to gray, and his golden eyes had faded to amber, but he still radiated power. Even sitting, he looked like he could kill everyone in the room if he chose to. Beside him stood 3 figures. The crown prince was obvious. Tall, broad, wearing armor decorated with the kills of his enemies. The second child was female, slender and cold, watching everything with calculating eyes. And then there was Yura. She was exactly as the hologram had shown. 7 feet tall, silver-skinned, golden-eyed. But the image had not captured the way she moved. When she stepped forward to examine Do-hyun, she moved like water flowing over stone. Smooth, deadly, inevitable. She circled him slowly. The entire court watched in silence. This is what the algorithm sends me? Her voice was clear and sharp. A small, soft creature from a small, soft world? Do-hyun said nothing. He kept his eyes forward, his breathing steady. I requested no mate, Yura continued, speaking to the court as much as to him. I have no need for one, but my father has decided that I must accept this gift. She said the last word like a curse. The Emperor's voice rumbled from the throne. The Galactic Unity Program requires participation from all major powers. You represent the Velan Empire, daughter. You will honor our commitment. Honor, Yura repeated. She finally stopped in front of Doyun, looking down at him with open contempt. Does this creature even know what honor means? Doyun met her eyes. It was hard. Every instinct screamed at him to look away, to submit, to survive. But he remembered the note in his briefing. They can smell fear, so he did not show any. I know what honor means, he said quietly. I know what duty means. I am here because I was chosen, just as you were chosen. Neither of us asked for this. A murmur ran through the court. Apparently, the previous suitors had not spoken back. Yura's eyes narrowed. For a moment, Do-hyun thought she might kill him right there. But instead, something flickered across her face. Not respect, but curiosity. You have courage, she admitted. Stupid courage, but courage nonetheless. Very well, human. Let us see if you have anything else. She stepped back and drew her blade. It was a curved sword, black as night, with edges that seemed to drink the light. The traditional greeting between potential mates is a duel, Yura announced. First blood only. This shows both parties the strength of their partner. She smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Will you accept, human? Or will you shame yourself and your species before this court? Do-hyun looked at the blade. He looked at the princess who had killed 3 suitors. He thought about the smart thing to do. Refuse, accept the shame, survive. But humans did not become the dominant species on Earth by being smart. They became dominant by being stubborn. I accept, he said. A servant brought him a sword. It was sized for Velan hands, too large and too heavy. Do-hyun adjusted his grip and tried not to think about how badly this was going to hurt. The court cleared a circle around them. Yura took her stance, relaxed, confident, almost bored. Begin, the Emperor commanded. Yura moved like lightning. Her first strike came so fast that Do-hyun barely saw it. He managed to block, but the impact sent him stumbling backward. His arms ached from the force. She struck again, and again. Each blow was precise, controlled, designed to test him. She was playing with him, he realized, showing the court how weak he was. Do-hyun stopped trying to attack. He focused everything on defense, on survival. Block, dodge, absorb. He let her drive him across the circle, let her think she was winning, because she was winning. That was not in question. The first cut came across his shoulder, a shallow slice that burned like fire. Blood dripped down his arm. First blood, Yura announced. She turned to the court, raising her blade in victory. But Do-hyun did not fall. He stayed standing, breathing hard, bleeding but upright. And as Yura turned away, he moved. It was not a great strike. It was not a skilled strike. It was desperate and clumsy and driven by nothing but stubborn human refusal to give up. Now, his blade caught her arm, just barely, just enough to break the skin. The court gasped. Yura froze. She looked down at her arm, at the thin line of silver blood welling up from the cut. Then she looked at Do-hyun, and her expression was impossible to read. First blood was mine, she said slowly, but you drew blood in return. That has never happened before. Do-hyun's vision was starting to blur. The pain was catching up to him, but he forced himself to speak. I told you, he said. I know what honor means. Then his legs gave out, and he collapsed to the floor. When he woke, he was in a medical bay. His wounds had been treated with technology far beyond anything on Earth. The pain was gone, replaced by a strange numbness. A servant stood nearby, a young Velan female with softer features than the warriors. She noticed he was awake and came to his side. You should not have survived that, she said. The princess was not being gentle. I noticed, Do-hyun replied dryly. The servant studied him with curious eyes. I am called Bora. I have been assigned to assist you during your time here. She paused. The princess has never been cut by a suitor before. The court is talking about nothing else. Is that good or bad? I do not know, Bora admitted, but it is interesting. And interesting is better than dead. Do-hyun lay back and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere in this palace, Princess Yura was probably planning her revenge. He had embarrassed her in front of her entire court. But he had also done something no one else had done. He had made her bleed. Maybe that meant something. Maybe it meant nothing. Either way, he was still alive. And for a small, soft creature from a small, soft world, that was victory enough. He was given quarters in the palace, a small room in a distant wing, far from anything important. Servants brought him food and water. Guards watched his door. He was not a prisoner exactly, but he was not free either. Bora visited him every day. She taught him the Velen language, explaining that relying on translators was considered weakness. She taught him their customs, their history, their complicated rules of honor. "Why are you helping me?" Do-hyun asked one evening. Bora looked away. "Because no one else will, and because I understand what it is like to be considered lesser." She told him her story. She had been born without the warrior instinct, a genetic difference that made her unsuitable for combat. In Velen society, this made her practically worthless. She could not fight, so she could not earn honor. She survived only because the palace needed servants. "You and I are the same," Bora said. "We are both things that should not exist in this world. But we exist anyway." Do-hyun thought about that for a long time. He spent his days learning everything he could. He practiced the language until his throat hurt. He studied Velen fighting techniques by watching guards train in the courtyard below his window. He exercised constantly, trying to build strength against the heavy gravity. And he watched Princess Yura. She appeared in the courtyard sometimes, training alone or with her elite soldiers. She was magnificent in combat. Every movement perfect, every strike lethal. But Do-hyun noticed something else. When she thought no one was watching, her face would change. The cold mask would slip just for a moment, and he would see something like exhaustion underneath. She was tired, he realized. Tired of fighting, tired of proving herself, tired of being the blade everyone expected her to be. But she could not stop. In the Velen court, stopping meant dying. One night, Do-hyun woke to the sound of combat. It was distant, somewhere deep in the palace, but unmistakable. Blades clashing, bodies falling, screams cut short. He moved to his door and found it unlocked. The guards were gone. Something was very wrong. Do-hyun made a choice. The smart thing would be to hide, to wait, to let the Velens handle their own problems. But Bor was somewhere in this palace, and whatever was happening might reach her. He ran. The corridors were chaos. Bodies lay scattered. Some guards, some in unfamiliar dark armor. Assassins, Do-hyun realized. Someone was attacking the palace. He followed the sounds of fighting until he reached the royal wing. Here the battle was heaviest. Dead assassins littered the floor, cut down by someone extremely skilled. And in the center of the carnage stood Princess Yura. She was wounded, cuts on her arms, a gash on her side, but still fighting. 3 assassins circled her, moving in coordinated patterns. They were good, very good, but Yura was better. She killed 2 of them in seconds, her blade moving too fast to follow. The third tried to flee. She caught him before he took 3 steps. Then she collapsed. Do-hyun rushed to her side. Up close, he could see something was wrong beyond her wounds. Her silver skin had turned gray. Her breathing was shallow and uneven. Her golden eyes were clouded. "Poison," she whispered. "Coward's weapon." Do-hyun's mind raced. He had studied Velen biology as part of his briefing. Their immune systems were incredibly strong against physical damage but weak against certain chemical compounds. They had evolved on a world with few poisonous creatures, so they had never developed resistance. But humans had. Earth was covered in poisonous plants, venomous animals, and toxic substances. Humans had been dealing with poison for millions of years, and Do-hyun's military training had included extensive study of alien biochemistry. Because the Federation had wanted to be prepared for potential conflicts, he examined the wound where the poison had entered. The color, the smell, the pattern of her symptoms. He recognized them. "I know this poison," he said. "I know how to help. But you have to trust me." Yura's clouded eyes focused on him. "Why would you help me? I have given you nothing but cruelty." "Because that's what humans do," Do-hyun said simply. "We help." He worked through the night. Using supplies from the medical bay and knowledge from his training, he created a treatment. It was not perfect. He did not have access to Earth medications, but it was enough to slow the poison and give her body time to fight. Yura drifted in and out of consciousness. During her waking moments, Do-yun talked to her. He told her about Earth, about the oceans and mountains, about cities filled with millions of people, about the food his mother used to cook when he was young. When she grew quiet and still, he sang to her. Old songs his grandmother had taught him. Silly children's songs. Anything to keep her tethered to life. Near dawn, her color began to return. Her breathing steadied. Her eyes cleared. She looked up at Do-yun, who had not slept, who had not left her side for a single moment. "You saved me," she said. It was not a question. "Yes." "Why?" Her voice was different now. Confused, vulnerable. "You owe me nothing. By Valen law, my death would free you from the pairing. You could go home." Do-yun thought about that. She was right. He could have let her die. No one would have blamed him. But he had not even considered it. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe because it was the right thing to do. Maybe because I'm stupid. Maybe because my grandmother raised me better than to let someone die alone." Yura stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something Do-hyun had never expected. She laughed. It was a weak laugh, broken by pain and exhaustion. But it was real. Her eyes softened. Her walls cracked, just a little. "You are the strangest creature I have ever met," she said. "You should be afraid of me. You should hate me. Instead, you sing me children's songs and tell me about your grandmother's cooking." "Humans are strange," Do-hyun agreed. "We do things that don't make sense. We love people who hurt us. We hope when there's no reason to hope. We help even when it costs us everything." "That sounds like weakness." "Maybe it is," Do-hyun said, "but it's also why we're still alive. A million things have tried to kill humanity over the years. Diseases, wars, disasters, each other. We're still here. Not because we're the strongest or the smartest, but because we never give up. We never stop caring." Yura closed her eyes. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I owe you a life debt. Among my people, that is the most sacred bond. I must repay you, or I have no honor." "You don't owe me anything," Do-hyun said. "That is not how it works." She opened her eyes and met his gaze. "Whether you want it or not, you are now bound to me, and I am bound to you." She reached out and took his hand. Her grip was weak but warm. "Rest now," Do-hyun said gently. "We can figure out the rest later." For the first time since he arrived on this world, Princess Yura did as she was told. When word spread that the human had saved Princess Yura's life, the court did not know how to react. Some laughed at the idea that a soft, weak creature could do what Velen doctors could not. Others whispered that perhaps humans were not as worthless as they seemed. Yura spent a week recovering. During that time, she summoned Do-hyun to her chambers every day. At first, they barely spoke. She would train, slowly, rebuilding her strength, while he watched. Sometimes she would correct his stance when he practiced basic forms. Her criticism was harsh, but Do-hyun noticed she was actually teaching him. "Your species fights strangely," Yura said one afternoon. "You have no natural weapons, no claws, no fangs, no armor. Yet you conquered your entire planet." "We use tools," Do-hyun replied, "and we work together. One human is weak. 100 humans are dangerous. 1,000,000 humans are unstoppable." "Pack hunters," Yura mused. "We have creatures like that on Karath. Small, weak things that hunt in groups. They can bring down prey much larger than themselves." "Exactly." She studied him with new interest. "Is that why you helped me? Pack instinct?" Do-hyun thought about it. "Maybe. Humans bond quickly. We form connections with almost anything. Other humans, animals, even machines. Once we decide something belongs to us, we protect it. And you have decided I belong to you?" The question hung in the air. Do-hyun felt his face grow warm. "I have decided you are worth protecting," he said carefully. "Whether you belong to me or not is not my choice to make." Yura's expression flickered. Surprise, perhaps, or something deeper. She turned away before he could identify it. "Train with me," she said abruptly. "I will teach you to fight properly. If you are to survive in this court, you need more than human stubbornness." Over the following weeks, Do-hyun trained harder than he had ever trained in his life. The Velen fighting style was brutal and efficient, designed for creatures with superior strength and speed. He could not match Yura in either, but she taught him to use his differences as advantages. Humans have greater endurance than almost any species in the galaxy, she observed during one session. Your ancestors hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Use that. Let stronger opponents tire themselves attacking you, then strike when they are weak. She also taught him to read opponents, to see the small movements that revealed their intentions before they acted. Your eyes are sharper than ours, she admitted reluctantly. You see colors we cannot. Use that too. Doyun absorbed everything. He practiced until his muscles screamed. He fell and rose and fell again. Each time he got a little better. And something else happened. As they trained together, Yura began to talk. She told him about her childhood, growing up in the shadow of her older brother, Tegan, who saw her as a threat to be eliminated. She had survived 3 assassination attempts before she turned 10. By 15, she had killed her first enemy in single combat. I became the Blade of Velen because I had no choice, she said quietly. If I was not the deadliest, I would be dead. So I made myself into a weapon. I carved away everything soft until only the blade remained. That sounds lonely, Doyun said. She did not deny it. Doyun told her about Earth in return, about the wars humans had fought, against each other, against nature, against themselves, about the terrible things humanity had done, and the beautiful things they had built in spite of it all. Your species should have destroyed itself a dozen times, Yura said. We almost did, many times, but we're still here. How? Dohyun smiled sadly. I don't know. Hope, maybe, or stupidity, or some combination of both. We keep making mistakes, and we keep trying to do better. It's not elegant, but it works. Their conversations became the bright point of Dohyun's days. He found himself looking forward to seeing her, even when the training left him bruised and exhausted. And he noticed that Yura seemed different when they were alone. Softer, more open, almost gentle. But the court noticed too. Crown Prince Tegan had been watching his sister's recovery with cold eyes. He had hoped the assassination would succeed. When it failed, he needed a new strategy. He found one at the Festival of Blades, a celebration held every year to honor Velen warriors. The entire court gathered in the Great Hall, drinking and boasting and challenging each other to friendly duels. Doyun attended at Yura's side. He wore Velen formal clothing, which felt strange and heavy, but he kept his head high and his expression calm. Tegan approached them with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Sister, he said loudly, ensuring everyone could hear. I see your pet is still alive. How amusing. I had heard humans were fragile creatures. Perhaps this one is defective. The court laughed. Doyun said nothing. Tell me, human, Tegan continued. What is it like to be paired with a princess? Do you feel honored, or do you simply feel afraid? I feel grateful, Doyun replied calmly. Your sister is an excellent teacher. More laughter, but this time it was uncertain. Tegan's smile tightened. Teacher? What could you possibly learn from her? How to be a proper pet? Doyun felt Yura tense beside him. She was ready to defend him, to challenge her brother, to risk everything. He could not let her do that. So he spoke first. I have learned many things from the princess, he said, his voice carrying across the hall. I have learned about honor, I have learned about strength, and I have learned about the ancient traditions of the Velan people. He paused, letting the silence build. Traditions such as the right of any bonded mate to demand satisfaction for insult to their partner. The hall went completely still. Dohyun looked directly at Tegan. You have insulted me publicly, Crown Prince. By Velen law, I have the right to challenge you. And I do. Gasps echoed through the hall. Tegan's face twisted with rage and disbelief. You dare? You are nothing. You are prey. Then it should be easy for you to defeat me, Dohyun replied. Unless you are afraid? He saw Tegan's hands clench, saw the calculation in those golden eyes. The prince could not refuse, not without losing face before the entire court. A crown prince afraid of a human would be a joke. Very well, Tegan growled. I accept your challenge. Tomorrow at dawn, and when I kill you, remember that you brought this upon yourself. He turned and stormed away. The court erupted in whispers. Yura grabbed Do-Yun's arm and pulled him aside. Her face was pale. "What have you done?" she hissed. "Tegan will destroy you. He is the finest warrior of his generation. You cannot win." "I know," Do-Hyun said quietly. "Then why?" He met her eyes. "Because if you had challenged him, it would have been civil war, sibling against sibling. But I'm just a human. If I fight him, it's just a duel. The court gets its entertainment, and you stay safe." "You will die for me?" "I will try not to," Do-Hyun said. "But if I do, then at least I die for something that matters." Yura stared at him. Her golden eyes glistened with something that might have been tears. "You impossible creature," she whispered. "You foolish, brave, impossible creature." She pulled him close and pressed her forehead to his. "Do not die," she said fiercely. "That is an order." Do-Hyun closed his eyes and breathed her in. "I'll do my best," he promised. Do-Hyun had not slept. He spent the night in meditation, remembering everything Yura had taught him. Every lesson, every correction, every moment of their training together. He played the knowledge through his mind like music, letting it settle into his bones. The dueling arena was ancient. Carved from black stone, it sat in the heart of the palace like a wound. Thousands of villains filled the surrounding seats. Nobles, soldiers, servants, all come to watch the impossible match. A human challenging the crown prince. It should have been comedy. Instead, the air was thick with tension. Do-Hyun entered the arena wearing simple training clothes. He carried a standard vellum blade, properly sized for human hands. He had refused the heavier armor offered to him. It would only slow him down. Across the arena, Crown Prince Tegan waited. He wore ceremonial battle armor, black and gold, polished to a mirror shine. His blade was a family heirloom, longer than Do-Hyun's by nearly a foot, with an edge that could cut through steel. The emperor sat in the royal box, watching with unreadable eyes. Beside him, Yura gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. "The rules are simple," announced the arena master. "Combat continues until one party yields, is unable to continue, or dies. There are no restrictions on technique. May honor guide your blades." Tegan smiled at Do-Hyun. It was the smile of a predator about to feast. "Any last words, human?" Do-Hyun settled into his stance. "No." The arena master raised his hand. The crowd fell silent. "Begin." Tegan attacked immediately, moving with terrifying speed. His first strike would have cut Do-Hyun in half if it had connected. But Do-Hyun was not there. He had stepped aside, letting the blade pass within inches of his chest. The prince recovered instantly and struck again. And again. And again. Each blow came faster, harder, more precise. Tegan was not playing games. He wanted this finished quickly. Do-Hyun did not try to match him. He focused entirely on survival, dodging, deflecting, retreating. He let Tegan drive him across the arena, giving ground with every exchange. The crowd began to laugh. They thought they were watching a hunt, a cat playing with a mouse before the kill. Do-Hyun let them think that. The first wound came after 3 minutes, a cut across his thigh, shallow but bleeding freely. Do-Hyun did not slow down. The second wound came 2 minutes later, a gash on his arm that made his fingers tingle. He shifted his grip and kept moving. The third wound almost ended it. Tegan caught him across the ribs, a strike that would have been fatal if Do-Hyun had not twisted at the last moment. Blood soaked through his shirt. "Stay down," Tegan commanded. "Accept your death with dignity." Do-Hyun stood up. The crowd's laughter faded. Tegan attacked again, more viciously than before. He was frustrated now. This should have been over. The human should have fallen long ago. Why was he still standing? Because humans were built to endure. Do-Hyun's ancestors had survived ice ages, famines, plagues, and wars. They had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every single day. Their bodies were designed to keep functioning through damage that would cripple other species. And humans were pursuit predators. They did not need to be faster than their prey. They just needed to keep going until their prey could not. 10 minutes passed. 15. 20. Tegan's movements began to slow. His breathing grew heavy. Sweat, a sign of exhaustion, appeared on his silver skin. Valen duels lasted minutes, not hours. Their explosive fighting style burned through energy quickly. Tegan had never faced an opponent who simply refused to die. Do-yun kept moving, kept dodging, kept bleeding, but never falling. He was in terrible pain. His vision was blurred at the edges. His body screamed at him to stop, to rest, to give up. But somewhere deep in his mind, in the ancient part of his brain that remembered when humans had hunted across endless savannas, a single thought repeated, "Keep going, keep going, keep going." At 30 minutes, Tegan made a mistake. It was small, a slight delay in his guard after a specific combination of strikes. Do-yun had seen this pattern before, had noted it, had waited for it. He moved. His blade found Tegan's sword arm, slicing deep into the muscle. The prince's weapon fell from his grip. Before Tegan could react, Do-hyun was behind him, blade pressed to the exposed skin of his throat. The arena went silent. Do-hyun stood there, barely upright, covered in his own blood. His arm trembled from exhaustion. One more second, and he might collapse, but he held the blade steady. "I could kill you," he said quietly, so only Tegan could hear. "Right now. One movement, and it's over." Tegan's body was rigid. "Then do it. Finish what you started." Do-hyun thought about it. He thought about everything this man had done. The attempted assassination of Yura, the years of torment, the cruelty and arrogance. Then he stepped back and lowered his blade. "I have no desire for your blood," he announced, loud enough for the arena to hear. "Only your respect." He bowed to the crown prince, a gesture of honor between equals. The silence stretched for an eternity. Then from somewhere in the crowd, someone began to pound their fist against their chest. The traditional Velen salute of respect. Another joined, then another, then hundreds. The arena thundered with the sound. Do-yun stood swaying in the center of it all. He could not believe he was alive. He could not believe he had won. No, not won. He had done something harder than winning. He had shown mercy. The emperor rose from his seat. The pounding stopped instantly. "Human," the emperor said, his ancient voice carrying across the arena. "What is your name?" "Kang Do-hyun." "Your Majesty." The emperor descended from the royal box and walked across the arena. The crowd held its breath. He stopped before Do-hyun and studied him for a long moment. "In the ancient traditions of our people," the emperor said, "there is an honor reserved for those who show true warrior spirit regardless of species or birth. It has not been granted to an outsider in 300 years. He placed his hand on Do-hyun's shoulder. "Kang Do-hyun, I name you Velen Sold. From this day forward, you are one of us. Your honor is Velen honor. Your enemies are Velen enemies. And your bond with my daughter is recognized not as politics, but as truth." The crowd erupted again, louder than before. Do-hyun's legs finally gave out. But before he could fall, strong arms caught him. Yura held him upright. Her face wet with tears she made no effort to hide. "You impossible creature," she whispered. "You actually did it." "I told you," Do-hyun managed. "Humans don't give up." "No," Yura said, pulling him close. "No, you don't." She kissed his forehead, gentle and fierce at once. "Rest now," she said. "I have you." For the first time since arriving on this world, Do-hyun let himself rest. Do-hyun spent the first few days unconscious in the medical bay. His body had been pushed far beyond its limits, and even advanced Velen technology could only do so much. The healers marveled at how he was still alive. "Human physiology is remarkable," one said, studying his readings. His body entered a state of emergency function, reducing blood flow to non-essential areas, flooding his system with pain-blocking hormones. He should have collapsed after the first 10 minutes. Instead, he fought for 30. Yura stayed by his side the entire time. When Do-hyun finally woke, she was there, reading from a Velen text. She looked up at the sound of his breathing changing, and her face softened. "You scared me," she said quietly. "Sorry," Do-hyun croaked. His throat was dry, his body heavy. "How long?" 4 days. He tried to sit up. She pushed him back down gently. "Rest. You earned it." Do-hyun lay back and studied her face. Something was different. The cold mask she always wore was gone. In its place was something open, vulnerable, almost tender. "You stayed with me," he said. "Yes." The whole time? Yes. Why? Yura looked away. Because I owed you a debt. And because, she hesitated, struggling with words. Because I wanted to. Doyun smiled despite the pain. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. She laughed, and a real laugh, warm and unexpected. Humans are ridiculous. So I've been told. As Doyun recovered, their relationship deepened. Yura showed him parts of herself no one else had ever seen. She took him to the hidden gardens in the oldest wing of the palace, a sanctuary filled with strange plants from a dozen worlds. She had discovered this place as a child and had come here to escape the violence of court life. My mother planted some of these, she said, touching a flower with silver petals. Before she died, I come here to remember her. Doyun listened as she spoke about her mother, a gentle woman who had been poorly matched with the emperor, who had died giving birth to Yura. The princess had never known her except through stories in this garden. She would have liked you, Yura said softly. She believed in kindness. Everyone thought it made her weak. But I think, she paused, I think kindness takes more strength than cruelty. It does, Dohyun agreed. Anyone can destroy. Building is harder. Yura looked at him with eyes full of questions. Do you think I can change? After everything I have done? Everyone can change. That's another thing humans believe in. Redemption. Growth. Becoming better than we were. Even when we have hurt people? Especially then. Dohyun took her hand. The past is fixed. The future isn't. Every moment is a chance to be different. Yura was quiet for a long time. Then she leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. Stay with me, she whispered. Not because of duty. Not because of the pairing. Stay because you want to. Doyun's heart ached with something he had not felt in years. I want to. They stayed in the garden until the 3 moons rose above the palace walls. In the days that followed, Dohyun's status in the court transformed. He was no longer seen as a curiosity or a pet. The title Velen Sold carried weight. Nobles who had ignored him now sought his opinions. Guards who had watched him with contempt now saluted with respect. He used this new position carefully. He became a bridge between humans and Velens, explaining each culture to the other. He sat in on diplomatic meetings, offering perspectives that neither side had considered. You see things differently, the emperor told him during one such meeting. You ask questions we would never think to ask. It is valuable. But not everyone was pleased with Dohyun's rise. Crown Prince Taegan had been humiliated publicly. Though he had not lost the duel in the traditional sense, he had never yielded. Everyone knew what had really happened. A human had defeated him through endurance and mercy. The shame was unbearable. He began to gather allies, other nobles who felt threatened by change, military commanders who distrusted aliens, traditionalists who believed the old ways were best. Dohyun noticed. He tried to warn the emperor, but his warnings were dismissed. Taegan is my son, the emperor said. He would not betray his family. Dohyun knew better. He had seen how far humans could fall when consumed by pride. He suspected Valens were no different. One evening, he and Yura walked along the palace ramparts, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and gold. Tell me about your home, Yura said. Tell me about Earth. Dohyun described his childhood in Busan, the busy streets, the smell of the ocean, his grandmother's small apartment where she had taught him to be patient and kind. He told her about his mother's sacrifices, his father's absence, his dreams of seeing the stars. I never imagined I would actually get here, he admitted. When I was a boy, space was just pictures and books. Now I'm standing on an alien world with an alien princess, and somehow this feels more like home than anywhere else I've been. Yura turned to face him. The dying light caught her golden eyes, making them glow. I was afraid of you, she admitted, when you first arrived, not because you were dangerous, but because you made me feel things I had locked away. Softness, hope, the possibility of being something other than a weapon. She stepped closer. You showed me that strength and gentleness can exist together. You showed me that mercy is not weakness. You have given me something I thought I had lost forever. What? A reason to live beyond survival. She kissed him. Not like before, when she had pressed her forehead to his in desperation. This was something else entirely. Tender and fierce. A question and an answer at once. Do-yun pulled her close and kissed her back. In that moment, nothing else existed. No court, no politics, no war or duty or fear. Just the two of them, two broken creatures finding wholeness in each other. When they finally separated, Yura's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I think I love you," she said, as if the words surprised her. Do-yun smiled. "I know I love you." They held each other as the stars emerged overhead. For one perfect moment, everything was right. Then the alarms began to sound. Explosions echoed through the palace. Guards shouted in the distance. The unmistakable sounds of combat filled the air. Yura's face hardened instantly. The warrior replaced the woman. "Tegan," she said, "he has made his move." She drew her blade and ran toward the fighting. Do-yun followed close behind. The coup had begun. Tegan's forces had struck everywhere at once. The gates, the barracks, the royal chambers. They had been planning this for months, gathering strength in secret, waiting for the right moment. The fighting in the corridors was brutal. Loyal guards clashed with rebels in a chaos of blades and blood. Do-yun and Yura cut their way through, fighting side by side, trying to reach the throne room. Then an explosion separated them. Do-yun found himself alone in a collapsed hallway, choking on smoke and dust. Through the rubble, he could hear Yura calling his name, but there was no way through. "Go!" he shouted. "Find your father! I'll find another way." He could hear her hesitation, the war between duty and heart. Then her footsteps retreated toward the throne room. Do-yun turned and ran in the opposite direction. He found Bora hiding in a servant's passage, terrified but alive. "Do-yun," she gasped, "Tegan's forces have captured the emperor and the princess. They're gathering everyone in the throne room. He's going to execute them publicly to cement his power." Do-yun's blood ran cold. But panic was useless. He forced himself to think. How many rebels? Hundreds, maybe more. And how many loyal guards left? Very few. Tegan killed most of them in the first strike. Do-yun closed his eyes. The odds were impossible. Even with villain training, even with human endurance, he could not fight hundreds of enemies alone. But he did not have to fight alone. He grabbed Bora's arm. "I need your help. I need to send messages." To the Federation, to loyal Velen commanders outside the palace, to anyone who might answer. The communications room is still accessible through the old tunnels. "Take me there." They moved through secret passages that only servants knew. Bora led him to a small room filled with equipment. Do-yun sat down and began to work. He sent messages to every contact he had made in his months on Karath, Federation diplomats, military officers who respected the Emperor, even other alien species who owed debts to Yura or the royal family. He did not ask for armies. He knew armies could not arrive in time. Instead, he asked for coordination, for distraction, for chaos. Humans had never conquered through superior strength. They had won through cooperation, through the ability to unite groups that had never worked together before. It was what made them dangerous. One by one, responses came back. A Federation ship would create a diversion in orbit. A loyal commander outside the city would assault the Western Gate. 3 noble houses still undecided would throw their support against Tegan if shown a chance of victory. It was not much, but it was something. "One more thing," Do-yun said. "I need to get into the throne room." Bora stared at him. "That's suicide." "Maybe, but Yura is in there, and I made her a promise." Bora was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. "There's a maintenance shaft. It comes out behind the throne. But you'll have to go alone. I'm too large to fit." "Show me." The shaft was narrow and dark. Do-yun crawled through on his belly inch by inch, fighting claustrophobia and fear. Above him, he could hear the sounds of the throne room. Tegan's voice raised in triumph, the crowd of rebels cheering their new leader. He reached the end of the shaft and peered through a small grate. The scene below was exactly what Bora had described. The Emperor knelt on the floor, hands bound, surrounded by guards. Beside him, Yura knelt as well, bloodied, defiant, refusing to bow her head. Tegan stood before the throne, his father's crown already in his hands. "The old regime ends today," he announced. "The weakness that allowed aliens to infiltrate our court, that allowed a human to humiliate our crown prince, that ends now. We will return to the ancient ways. Strength above all, purity above all." He turned to his father. You have ruled too long. You have grown soft. It is time for new blood. He raised his blade. Do-yun kicked through the grate and dropped into the room. The rebels spun to face him, shocked by the sudden appearance of the human. Do-yun did not hesitate. He charged toward Tegan, moving faster than he had ever moved before. But he was not trying to reach the prince. He was trying to reach Yura. He cut through her bonds with a single strike of his blade. She rose instantly, snatching a weapon from a fallen guard. Together they faced the rebels. You cannot win, Tegan snarled. You are 2 against hundreds. We don't need to win, Do-yun replied. We just need to hold. On cue, explosions rocked the palace. The Federation ship had begun its diversion. The Western Gate was under assault. Loyal forces were flooding into the city. The rebels hesitated. The certainty in their faces cracked. Yura stepped forward. Listen to me. Tegan has led you to disaster. The Federation is responding. Loyal forces are coming. If you continue this path, you will all die for a traitor's ambition. She looked at her brother with something like pity. It doesn't have to end this way. Put down your weapons. Accept justice. Some of you can still survive this. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, rebels began to lower their weapons. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to break Tegan's army from within. Tegan roared in fury and charged at Yura. This time she was ready. The duel was brief. Tegan fought with rage. Yura fought with precision. She had always been the better warrior. He had simply never wanted to admit it. She disarmed him within minutes, her blade at his throat, exactly as Do-yun had done to him before. Yield, she commanded. Tegan's face twisted with hate. Kill me, end it. No, Yura stepped back. Death is too easy. You will face justice. You will answer for everyone who died tonight, and you will spend the rest of your life knowing that a human and your weak sister brought you down. Guards came forward to bind the fallen prince. The emperor was freed, shaken but alive. As the surviving rebels surrendered and loyal forces secured the palace, Yura turned to Do-yun. He looked terrible, exhausted, bleeding from a dozen small wounds, barely standing. But he was alive. They both were. You came back for me, she said. I made you a promise, he replied. Humans keep their promises. She pulled him into her arms and held him tight. Around them, the palace still smoldered. The dead would need to be mourned. The wounded would need healing. The long work of rebuilding would take years. But they had won. Not through superior strength or numbers, but through unity, through mercy, through the stubborn human refusal to give up. Later, when the dust had settled and the stars shone through broken windows, the emperor addressed the survivors. Today we have seen something extraordinary, he said. We have seen a human stand against impossible odds. We have seen mercy defeat cruelty. We have seen the old ways challenged by something new. He looked at Do-yun. I did not believe humans were worth our attention when you first arrived. I was wrong. You have shown us that strength is not only found in the blade, it is found in endurance, in compassion, in the courage to spare an enemy when killing would be easier. He turned to the gathered crowd. Let it be known across the galaxy. The bond between Kang Do-yun and Princess Yura is recognized as true. They are partners in all things. And humans, strange, soft, impossible humans, are our allies forever. The crowd pounded their chests in salute. Yura took Do-yun's hand and led him to the balcony overlooking the capital. 3 moons hung in the sky, casting silver light over a world beginning to heal. Everyone got a normal mate, Do-yun said softly. Park Ji-won got his gentle scholar, Sumi got her friendly diplomat, and I got you. Yura laughed. You say that as if you drew the short lot. No, he said, pulling her close. I got the longest odds, and I won. She kissed him under the 3 moons, and for the first time in her life, the blade of Velan felt at peace. Across the galaxy, the story spread. Of the soft human who endured, who showed mercy, who united rather than conquered. Humanity's reputation changed forever. They were no longer seen as weak prey, but as something stranger, something wonderful, something terrifying. Beings who survived everything, who adapted to anything, who loved even those who hurt them. In the end, that was humanity's greatest weapon. Not their endurance or their tools or their numbers, their love. And in a universe full of blades and blood, love was the sharpest weapon of all.